So I've made a commitment to myself to try and make better videos for YouTube about the progress on the 818. Got a GoPro for Christmas that I could make videos with a tripod and not just walking around with my camera phone in my hand. So what I tried to do today was make some videos with the phone while the GoPro did a time lapse. And although I've messed with the settings and it's plugged into a charger, I don't know what's going on. It keeps not making time lapses. 32 minutes is the longest I got. I've been in the shop for about 9 hours now. So we're going to get a crappy handheld shaky cam video of everything that happened today. The first thing I did was install the Bear Bumpsteer kit. What it does is first it gives you more length on your tie rod to adjust that, and then it gives you the ability to put spacers in between the spindle and the tie rod to adjust the angle that's on the steering rack. So right now I've basically got the biggest spacer I can get with the bolt that came with the kit. Now the bolt that came with the kit, it's tapered to go into the tie rod here, like would be a traditional spindle, and then it's just a bolt on the bottom. So that's basically the most bump steer adjustment I can get with the Bear kit. What some people have done, and it really depends on where your ride height is. If you get your ride height too low, this won't be enough. You'll still have bump steer. So what they do is they drill the spindle out so that it's not tapered, and get a big military grade bolt and use it in place of that tapered piece that came with the Bear kit, and then that way you can run a bigger shim and get more angle. You know, for some reason I always thought that this should be parallel to the ground, but I really think it should be parallel to the lower control arm. And I think that's the issue, is that if you're looking at it now, it's certainly a lot closer than it was when it was up. I believe I've got about 28 millimeters of spacer in there, but it's still not parallel to the lower control arm. So I believe, I'm not a suspension expert, but I believe the goal is to get it parallel with the lower control arm. So after I did that, I broke out the manual right there and went through the entire front suspension to make sure that it was assembled properly, make sure nothing was upside down, backwards, and then I went through and checked the torque on all the bolts, and I marked them all with a blue Sharpie as I checked them. So every bolt in the front suspension has been checked for torque, and every component has been checked to make sure it wasn't installed backwards. It wasn't. I didn't really have a lot of doubts. The guy I bought the car from did excellent work. So I then turned my attention to the back. This axle was spinning at the transmission, but not spinning at the wheel. Right here at this flex joint, it had come apart and was not spinning. So I pulled it out, put it on the bench, pushed it back together. I did not pull the boots, simply because I don't have more of those metal straps. I would have had to order some more metal straps. So I tried to fix it without pulling the boot. It appears to be working now. It's spinning, no problems. I can push and pull on it in either direction, and it doesn't come loose. I am not all the way seated. Right here, as you can see the other side, it flushes up. So I'm going to talk to a guy who's built one of these before, or a guy who's familiar with Subarus. It was fully seated when it wasn't spinning, and so I think that was the problem. I think that this axle is not long enough, but it was long enough when I got the car. And if anybody remembers, I had a posi differential put in here, and so I'm wondering if the guy who put the posi in, either the posi's different or he didn't do something right, and now I'm short. So I'm going to talk to some Subaru people and some people who built an 818 and see what their advice is. I don't think it'll prevent me from taking a little test drive around the neighborhood, but I certainly don't want to take it on the track until I understand what's going on here and whether that's good. And then I went through the rear suspension, same as the front. Checked all the components, made sure nothing was reversed, and checked the torque on everything, and marked everything as I torqued it. So both front and rear suspension are completely installed, torqued, ready to go. And what I did after that was bolted in the brackets for the passenger seat. So my next goal is to get both seats, get the sliders put back on them, and get both seats installed. And then the final thing I did today was I had cracked my shifter by over tightening it. And so somebody on the forum was nice enough to send me theirs, because nobody actually uses theirs. Everybody gets an MR2 one. And so I was able to get the new one installed, and I had cut away huge chunks of this as I was working out how the solid linkage was going to work. Now that I knew exactly how much clearance I needed and what my movements were, I was able to take a lot less off of this one. So it's a lot sturdier. There's no flex in this one. The other one, it only happened when you were going into reverse, but because I cut this entire section away here, shifter would flex a little bit when you were going into reverse. This one doesn't flex at all, and all the gears are working great. So it's really a productive day. I did not think I would get all the suspension done. But I got all the suspension done, and got the passenger seat brackets in, and got the shifter reworked. Oh yeah, and I got the one fuel hose that was leaking remade. I got the new crimps in from Amazon. I was able to recrimp that hose, and it's not leaking anymore. So as soon as I can get somebody to help me bleed the brakes, this thing's going back on the ground. And then it's going outside so that we can burp the radiator without making a huge mess in the garage. So bleed the brakes, radiator, seats and seat belts are the only thing I like, being able to drive it around the neighborhood. If I get lucky, that may happen next weekend. It just depends on weather and how much time I get, and if I run into any issues. So good day, productive day. I hate that you guys didn't get the time lapse. Not that any of you care, but gives me something to do. When I'm sitting in a hotel for work, I can edit videos. No editing to these shaky cams. Just hit the upload button.